Uh, what do you know? Do you have something new from the Bilderbergs?
Yes, uh, Carl Bildt made a speech today calling, of course, for the International Monetary Fund to evolve into a World Department of Treasury, which is part of their program, and also for the World Health Organization to become a World Department of Health. Two simultaneous goals. Now, initially, of course, they're still nattering about how the global meltdown economically means that we need to have the UN sponsored, UN operated Department of the Treasury. And they did a little bend in advocating the World Department of Health. The nonsense about the swine flu having utterly failed, they're back to global warming. We need a World Department of Health because we're all going to burn to death in a few years if we don't have a Department of Health to globally fight global warming. Global warming has been an issue with Bilderberg since the early 90s, at least, maybe earlier. For the reason that they could exploit fears of global warming to make big bucks in the cooling industry. Rockefeller, a lot of these sons of smokestack industries really got their little niggers in and out over global warming. That was for profits industrially. So when the nonsense about swine flu petered out, even in the establishment newspapers, it was pointed out that, not me, but other newspapers, and quoting scientists, in the United States, we have an average of 300,000 cases of flu every year. On average, 30,000 Americans die of flu every year. So they picked out a strain of flu, called it swine flu, to make the world a pandemic. We got to have a World Department of Health because of the swine flu. Well, obviously, swine flu has killed a few people, and that's unfortunate, of course. Most people who get the swine flu have had only mild cases, mild like a lot of other strains of influenza. So they sort of did a shift of gears there to go back to global warming. Is the reason we need a UN-run Department of Health. Also, President Obama has been ordered to try to get the United States back on track to ratify the treaty that would make the United States part of the International Criminal Court. Well, that again would be surrendering a big gob of national sovereignty to the International Court. The ICC would be superior to our own Supreme Court. They could decide that some kid soldier in Afghanistan or Iraq was too tough on somebody and grab him and try before an international tribunal. So Obama's been told how this way, and understand, Obama is their tool and fool. President Clinton first signed off on the International Criminal Court as president. A test vote in the Senate showed more than 90 senators opposing it. So he never submitted for ratification for those tactical reasons. When Bush, number 42, the younger Bush became president, he unsigned the ICC. Obama became president, he signed on again. It still requires Senate ratification. What Bilderberg is telling Obama, and he is their tool and fool, that obviously many of the left-wing senators wanted to vote to ratify the ICC, but they're frightened by outraged voters who are patriots who do not want to surrender sovereignty. So, so you have more votes than you think. And after the 2010 elections, might have a much more left-wing Senate. Then you can, meanwhile, sweet talk the Democratic senators who would really like to vote to ratify the ICC. Then, after the new Senate is seated in January of 2011, you can ratify it quietly late on a Saturday night when it's too late to hit the Sunday morning papers, too late to rearrange the Sunday talk shows, and it will not be reported at all. It will sound off on it. Americans won't know. You'll not be politically threatened. So that's our tactics. That is how we're going to get the ICC ratified. And Obama says, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. So those are the developments I know about so far. I'll know a lot more tomorrow, but we have a long ways to go yet. That was the end of the sentence.
I don't know if it's
Let's let these guys get through first. Are you through?
well, I was going to ask you about the members that are participating at the meeting.
Yes. Oh, definitely. Giffner, the Secretary of Treasury, U.S. Secretary of Treasury, was there, endorsing the global Treasury Department. He does not want a long recession or economic meltdown. Dan Justin said the debate would be between whether they should go on for 10 years or 2 years, but it would be more tactical. But the mood seems to be that the people in Europe and America only have to suffer for a year before they'll accept this remedy. They won't have to suffer for 10 years. And if we do have it, keep it going for 10 years, look how much money we'll lose because we're in a recession. So the tilt seems to be toward a short 1 or 2 year recession and exploit it in order to achieve those goals. Well, every year the American Secretary of State, Defense, Treasury attends these meetings, as does a high official at the White House to get the president's orders. Every year, high public officials attend. Every year, of course, David Rockefeller and the Rothschilds with the different last names as Evelyn Rothschild decided to die. But the Rothschilds and Rockefellers are still the kingpins in the organization. I forgot which is the last name by marriage. We have Rothschilds whose last name is not Rothschild.
But do you have yet a list of them?
I have last year's list, which we had to add to by sight by people who did not want to be on their list. I'm still hopeful that the pressure from the newspapers and broadcasters will cause them to cough up this year's list. Although, as I said, every time they cough up on this, we've been able to identify positively by sight people who are not on their own list for whatever reason. So I'm hopeful that it'll be coughed out of them. Otherwise, our list will be those confirmed by sight and those confirmed that we know were there, whose staff will not deny that they were there. For instance, when Hillary Clinton, as First Lady, attended a meeting in Georgia, USA, some years ago, we positively knew she was there. I'll get back on Monday, call the White House, the First Lady's press secretary. Well, I just don't know. I said, well, I know for a fact she was there. I'm perfectly willing to write that the First Lady was at the Bilderberg meeting, but her social secretary did not know. So you don't know, that's the way I'll write it. Can I get back to you? You got 5 minutes, get back to me. Yeah, she was there. So that's the way things get confirmed. But we'll have a pretty strong list. unless they release it, it obviously will not be complete. But out of the 120 members attend, on average, 110 will be lifetime members. The other few will be maybe a potential president. They picked up Governor Warner of Virginia, and they thought he might be a potential president. And then they decided he was not, so he was not invited back. They invited Dan Quayle to a meeting when he was vice president, thinking he might be a future president. Then they decided he was not a future president, was never invited back. So that element is where, will you be our useful tool? If not, bye-bye. That was the end of the sentence.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.